first glimpse that anyone has had of this exhibition, which is part of the award. The award, for those who may not know, is a three-part award. Ed Brzezinski, my partner in crime on spa, and I have been talking about there are obvious advantages to just cutting checks and running away. We didn't see those advantages. We like actually getting much more involved than that. And that's meant that Lynne won $50,000 cash last May, and then has worked very hard, worked very hard this year with the team to put together both a book and an exhibition. And for any of you who know how much either one of those takes, you will understand when I say it's a lot of work to be done in a compressed period of time. The exhibition is beautiful, to say the least. I think it reflects Lynne's oeuvre in a magnificent way. Lynne is, as those of you who, like me, are great admirers of her work, is interested in everything. In sites that some of us walk through every day and don't notice, in sites that some of us have never been in and should notice, in the human eye and the human hand at work without a human being actually in the frame. And I think that, that her work compels us, her work teaches us, and ultimately relates us. Lynne is the most deserving winner of the award for the first year. She was the unanimous choice of our jury. We have a three-member jury panel who are peer reviewing the work of our nominators, and our nominators come from across Canada. So Lynne was one of the three shortlisted artists last year, and a very quick decision was made by the jury that Lynne would be the inaugural winner. Bar Gilmore is the designer of this exhibition, the space that you are in, and has done, I think, the most magnificent job. Bar is also the designer of the book that accompanies the exhibition. The book is published by Gerhard Steidl and distributed worldwide, and we have photographs to prove that, from bookstores and museums in France already, which excites all of us. We really are here to say thank you to Lynne for all that you have done, but especially for being a most deserving winner. We are also here to say thank you to all the people who worked very hard this year on a dream that Ed and I had now for about 5 years of putting together Canada's largest photography award. I was going to say prize because I'm told that if I say spa and award, people will get, so I have to say spa prize. To elevate the status of Canadian photographers even beyond the current stature that they have, both across Canada and internationally. Lynne is collected by museums around the world. She has shows that have toured Canada and internationally. We wanted excellence, and we wanted to take excellence to the next level. And that's what we've been doing with Lynne all year. Next week, we will announce the winner of the second SPA prize. And we'll start the whole process all over again because we have boundless energy. Maybe we'll take a day off. But it is something that, having seen what has been produced, both in the book and in the exhibition, tells us, I think, that we were on the right track all along, and is a fitting celebration of the extraordinary artists who are nominated for the SPA. I'm going to introduce my partner in crime, my friend, and an extraordinary artist in his own right, Ed Brzezinski.
Prize are now complete. The book, which again was to me the crown jewel of the prize, internationally published book, Dutch title. And when Jane and I first talked about this idea, I think we were kicking it around at a dinner, and she asked me what I thought a good prize would be for Canada for photography. And I said, well, I noticed in my own career that there was a marked uptick once the internationally published book by Yale University Press that was called Manufactured Landscapes, and the show launched at the National Gallery in Ottawa. That moved my career to a different place. All of a sudden, I was getting international attention. People were calling me from the United States. People were calling me from Europe. Where have you been? How did you manage to get this body of work and nobody knows about it? And it was at that moment that I recognized how important these books are, and how important having those books in those bookstores at the Jeu de Paume or MoMA, and how people pick them up, and how curators pick them up, and other people who love art pick them up, and get their information and see the substance of the body of work. When you see one image in an art fair or something, you don't understand the context of where that artist is coming from. And with this award, Lynne Cohen, of which I congratulate you, you were so deserving of this award. I'm so happy that Lynne was the first one to win this award. And to me, it's again, Lynne's been out there internationally, but I think we haven't really admitted her in a significant way from Canada. She's picked up her own momentum internationally, but I think, and I'm hoping that this will certainly add one more lift to what she's already doing, to the importance of what she's doing. And again, with the three things now being complete, having seen the show here, one thing I want to also say, congratulations to Jane, is that when I said it should be a traveling exhibition, it should be an internationally published book by someone with style, and cash would be excellent. And all three have come through. It has not seen one bit of compromise. No intervention. It was always about facilitating those three things to make sure that they weren't a compromise, that we got what we set out to do. And I think standing here today, and with all the important people, Amanda and Barb, everybody else who have been really putting their weight behind this prize, it's remarkable to see that we're standing today to show you and speak and to celebrate the first fruition of the SPA award, SPA prize. Without further ado, again, Lynne's going to come and speak a bit about her work, give us a few minutes of her words, and again, it gives me great pleasure to ask you to come to the podium.
Thank you. And thanks Scotiabank. Thanks Bar and Amanda. Thank you to Andrew Ludd, who couldn't do this without my partner. It's just an extraordinary honor to have this prize, to be the first person to get the prize, a book, a prize, an exhibition. There's so many young and not so young talented artists out there who never get this kind of recognition. And I feel it's such a privilege to have had this recognition with the book, the exhibition, start to finish. And the cash, yes, and the cash. Which I've never made that much in a normal job in my entire life. I just want to say a few things about my work, and perhaps people have other questions about my work. This is just a terrific opportunity for me to have all this work up as part of the Compact Festival, and for so many people to see this work together. This is an exhibition that's more like a retrospective, and it covers work from the 80s, until last year. The picture on the side of the book was the last picture I made that's in the book, that's called Untitled. They're all untitled with titles. It's called Untitled, parenthetically, Malevich. They used to have titles on my work that they were all either untitled, which seemed really pretentious, and then there were secret coded titles, in parentheses, which ended up, they were really top secret, which ended up in every catalog I ever published, all over the world. So I decided to take control of the title, the untitled title. And so now the title, the untitled, the titles are under control, more or less. Previously, they were either called spa, waiting room, laboratory, but in fact, some of the ones that were called spa turned up as laboratories on invitations to shows that I did. So that wasn't going to work. The generic, and the spa could have been a laboratory, and the laboratory could have been a spa. So that explains something. Probably not enough. In any case, I just wanted to say that the pictures have no people in them. And somebody would ask you, well, why are there no people in these pictures? And my answer to that question is, where would I put them? Because I think they're really suggested. I think these pictures, I'd like to think they were full of human presence in their absence, that it's just before they came, or just after they left, or escaped. And sometimes people ask how you get into these spaces, and sometimes you wonder how you get out of them. And I mean that both sort of literally, psychologically, ideologically. But mostly I wanted to say that a lot of time my work is talked about in sort of Michel Foucauldian terms, sort of like heavy-handed, psychological, like power, punishment. But in fact, I'd like to think that there's much more humor in my work than Michel Foucault would ever want to see. I think my work is much closer to the cinema of Jacques Tati than it is to Michel Foucault's prisons. I mean, I hope so. I'd like to think that. What else I wanted to say is that I do find these pictures sometimes, that early on I would find them in window peeping. Now, a few times that was quite dangerous to be window peeping and driving around in Des Moines, Iowa. Now, I usually find them behind several sets of doors that I find on the internet or in scientific journals. And that I never know what's going to be there. I have a hunch, but now I know enough to ask whether it's going to be on a video screen, on a monitor, or in 3 dimensions. I'm really only interested in real scale. Even though most of the pictures in this room you think are like made for doll houses, that you have no idea of how big you are in this space. I'm not that big. I mean, although some of the spaces you wonder, how do you fit through the door? And how did you get out of the door? Yeah, and besides. Some of these pictures are made in Venice, and the ones that are made in Venice, you might think were made in Milwaukee. And they could have been made in Milwaukee without as much, the food in the evening would have been not so good. So that there's a kind of, one of my students saw an exhibition that I did of mine, and she said, I know which ones you made in Europe, but she looked at the outlets. I thought that's when you get high grade, just because you're looking that carefully. I mean, it was the sort of what you dream about when you exhibit work, that people would look that carefully. I noticed in some of the exhibitions that I've done, there's like nose marks on the glass. I mean, part of what I try to do is make these pictures look 3-dimensional. And I do that, and it's all true. What's here? True. In parentheses. No, in quotes. It's sort of, they're mostly true. I sometimes move things, I don't bring anything. I can't carry any more than the 8x10 view camera and my tripod and a light meter. I can't carry anymore. So these places are mostly true, even though they look like they couldn't possibly be true. A review was written in the 80s of a show I did at PPOW suggesting that I set these up all in my studio. It was at a moment when artists were doing studio constructions. Well, I mean, I could have. I didn't. I mean, it would have been much less interesting. My life would have been much less interesting to be depressed alone by myself in my studio cutting cardboard up. So I've had a much more exciting life being out in the world. Even though one of my pictures of a laboratory, a sound studio, looks more like a Thomas Demand than a Thomas Demand looks like a Thomas Demand. And in fact, his looks more real. Mine looks fake. If you put the 2 pictures of the acoustics labs together, his looks real, mine looks fake. So explain that. Except that all that explains is something about the nature of photography. And hopefully people will have some questions, and I'm really thrilled with